Let's go, Rider Nation.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Get the feeling now. Hit 'em high, hit 'em low. 'Cause we're dealing now. Everybody's giving it all they got. 'Cause we're ready.
Here we go. That's Arcana Kings. This is the Piffles podcast, your Saskatchewan Roughriders fan podcast. And we're going to pull back the curtains just a touch. This is our fourth attempt at it. So hopefully it works. If not, we're leaving.
Fourth attempt, and we haven't gotten more than 2 minutes into the show.
Hey, I'm just happy to be recording with Iceman from Top Gun here. That's quite the headset you got going on.
You know what? When your headset or your mic dies right before or during recording, you make do with what you got.
And that's pretty much the motto of the Piffles podcast. Make do with what you got. And you got us. As always, you got me. I'm Alex.
I'm Steve.
And since I already made fun of Steve, I guess I'm Greg.
Thanks for listening on your favorite podcast platform, watching on YouTube, watching on Saskatchewan Max TV on demand. Piffles podcast is brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive in Regina. And with that warm-up happening right now, with the full winter freeze done with, hit your DQ and go get a blizzard at Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive because tastes good right now. Tastes good all the time, but like especially right now. Well, we're going to talk some Rider football. Not a lot of news, but we're going to do a lot of we're going to look at Jeremy O'Day's offseason as a whole, because I'm still seeing people complain about things that aren't or that didn't happen. So I want to talk about things that maybe didn't happen, and we're going to go from there and just see where this episode takes us. So we'll get right to it. Let's start off with the opening kickoff. So very little in terms of news this week for the Riders. There was one signing over the last little bit, and it was defensive back Karfala Exume, who is a special teams guy, Canadian defensive back. I'm not going to lie. I had to ask who when I saw this. So now that I've kind of looked him up, okay, yeah, that's the kind of player that he is. He's a depth guy. He's a special teams guy. Give me your thoughts on bringing in another Canadian defensive back.
This is 100% your special teams guy to replace your why is his name escaping me right now? The brothers. Onyeka. Thank you. I'm like one of the Onyekas. That's all this is. This is a depth piece and mostly a special teams guy. He's a name you've heard, but you probably didn't recognize, and because of when his plays are happening. Decent special teams move. Nothing to get excited about, but nothing to get miserable about.
The dude's a special teams beast, and that's exactly why they signed him. 100% is to replace Godfrey Onyeka. And so let's roll with it. He probably came in slightly cheaper, but based on Jo signing and the increased salary cap, I'm not too concerned about it.
Well, and the depth there in the secondary as well. Just goes to show that it really looks like we're going forward with two Canadian starters in that defensive backfield, of course, with Tavon Campbell likely at one of the cornerback spots opposite of Marcus Sales, and then
Lacombo.
Nelson Lacombo. There we go. Thank you. Wow, it's been 2 weeks. I don't remember who's on the team anymore. It's been a long 2 weeks. I'll tell you that. But it just shows that they're going to go forward with that, and it's another depth piece for that. And you got to have those special teamers around. They fill a great role, so you need to have them around, and that's exactly what this signing is. And with that, that's the end of the Rider news from the last couple weeks, as free agency is kind of wrapped up. But want to look at free agency as a whole for the Saskatchewan Roughriders here, and that includes going back to before Christmas. So that's essentially when the Riders free agency started, was bringing back their own guys. So as a whole, 17 free agent re-signings out of, I think they had 32 guys on the list. There's only 5 guys remaining from the free agency list for the Riders that haven't signed anywhere. Frankie Hickson, Colton Hunchak.
No.
Who else is on there?
Not Colton Hunchak.
But that goes to show that, Jeremy O'Day was able to keep a lot of their guys, the guys that they wanted to bring back. So I think it was Jeremy O'Day's presser post free agency, like after day 2 of free agency, where he said, we signed everybody or re-signed everybody that we gave an offer to. So they kept everybody they wanted to, which is almost unheard of in free agency. That just doesn't ever happen. So 17 free agency re-signings. There's 4 contract renegotiations or restructures with Sean Bain, AJ Ouellette.
Milligan resigned.
Milligan
Allen
added another year.
Was it Allen or Revis got a
Revis did, yeah.
Revis did, yeah.
So there was a few, and of course adding the year to Roland Milligan. So as a whole, if you had to grade Jeremy O'Day's offseason, we'll say free agency, but offseason so far, what kind of grade would you give him?
Are we
Easily
talking
an A.
before or after the free agent signings? Are we just talking about keeping our guys? Or are we talking about offseason as a whole so far?
Offseason as a whole. He made it very obvious.
Yeah.
We hadn't talked about any of the free agent signings yet. All of the,
all
your
5 of them,
McEwens and your Stevens and Harris. And
We talked about him last episode.
I know. But if we're talking about the offseason as a whole,
including those.
A plus. We kept everybody we wanted to. They kept harping on it. We kept 9 all-stars. We had 9, we kept 9. That alone would have made it a B plus. And then they improved everywhere where they needed to improve. They improved backup short yardage quarterback and second string quarterback with your favorite player of all time. And then you look at guys like Tavon Campbell, and it's an A plus.
Oh, 100%. Like I saw a few people, like the people that are complaining say Jo never went and got a number 1 receiver, and I stand by the number 1 receiver is on this damn team.
That's KeeSean Johnson.
Yeah, but he's not yet. He will be, but not yet.
Well,
but
training camp hasn't started yet, Greg. We're gonna have this debate. We're gonna have this debate.
I know we are. I'm teeing it up. But there's also the chances of like an Emlis is out there. Dante Myers could also leap the pack too. He's shown he's got the skills. They've got a receiver or a couple receivers that will stretch a defense, that will take a double team. So he didn't have to go out and get your Kenny Lawlers or your Eugene Lewis's. Like apparently according to Eugene Lewis on the Sports Cage the other day, the Riders did offer him a contract, but apparently it wasn't anywhere where he was comfortable signing with. And if you know anything about Eugene Lewis, he's very confident in how much he should get paid. Which is fine.
You don't blame him.
Get the bag while you can, right?
Absolutely.
You could have ended that at very confident, just in general.
But the fact remains is, and Trevor Harris has been saying this publicly, is this team's motto is continuity. You've heard that from Mace, you've heard it from Harris, you've heard it from O'Day. And yes, we make fun of the Bombers for running it back because they've ran it back how many years in a row, and all they're doing is getting older and not better. The Riders still have a relatively young team minus our quarterback. So I think they're in a very good spot.
Well, and I think they basically got, I won't go with an A plus like you guys. I would maybe just go with an A, maybe an A minus, only because two positions are still kind of hit and miss for me right now. I'll start with Mario Alford and kick returner. I think I'm not upset by the signing by any means. I know a lot of fans didn't want him back. I thought they should move on and maybe go younger, cheaper, find somebody who's already on the roster, just based off the second half that Mario Alford had from last season. But maybe there's motivation there with new schemes or something, whatever's going to get put in place for this year. Again, it's the continuity, right? So to me, it is what it is. He was still pretty decent when he actually ran up the field. It was just that happened so little in the second half of the year. Tavon Campbell. This is a guy who hasn't played meaningful games in 4 years. So to sign him to a contract, and we're actually going to talk about the money, the contract signings. Justin Dunk posted what the Riders paid for free agents. A little much, maybe, for a guy who hasn't played in 4 years, but it could pay off big time if the guy ends up being a starter. I
heard this 4-year thing from both you and Steve. And like I told Steve, it's not like he was sitting on the couch chugging beers like Vince Young before the Riders signed him. He was on an NFL roster,
yes, putting in practice time,
going head on head with the guys on the field. The guy still has talent. He just wasn't playing live fire. He still got it.
So what you're saying is he hasn't played meaningful football in 4 years.
Yeah, but okay, yes, no. You said meaningful football. He said he hasn't. He hasn't. You guys make it sound like he's been sitting on the couch. That's not what happened.
No, he's clearly been getting the reps in practice, but there's a big difference between practice reps and game time speed. And we know he has game time speed, or at least he did when he left for the NFL. You know, that was his one reason to go down south. He had game-breaking speed, and we're hoping that he took that speed and was able to build on it in those NFL camps and through practice and on those practice rosters. But the fact remains, you paid a guy $150,000+ and hope he's still got it. The question to me is going to be whether or not he got any kind of a signing bonus. Because if there was a hefty signing bonus, they don't have a choice. They have to basically go with him. But if it's just your $150 and they can cut him in camp and he doesn't have it, then it's a great deal to me.
And the other position that I'm still a little bit hesitant on for, making an A+ is defensive end. Because we talked about Shane Ray, obviously signing before free agency opened. It's the injury history for me. The guy's always constantly hurt in his pro career. He just hasn't been able to shake that. When he's on the field, he's very good. But your best ability is availability. And he just hasn't proven that. So to me, that's a gamble. The pay that he's getting, $125,000, isn't really all that much, I guess, for, I'll say this in quotes, star defensive end. So that is fairly inexpensive, but it's a risk. Defensive end should be not hard to recruit. The Riders over the last, 30 years of me being a fan have not really had a problem finding guys. They had Terrell Jariniak came in out of nowhere and had double digits in sacks. Fred Perry was phenomenal for a couple of years. Like they
John
just
Chick
happen to find these, like they find these guys almost out of nowhere. It seems like there's enough outside linebackers in the U.S. that you should be able to recruit that position fairly easily. And for whatever reason, the Riders haven't found that game-breaking defensive end in the last couple of years. Honestly, ever since they let Willie Jefferson go to Winnipeg, they haven't really had that top flight. I guess Charleston Hughes was for a little bit too, but they just seem to be missing that. So maybe they have it with Malik Carney and Shane Ray, and I know they do more of a rotation than ever before, but I don't know.
And that's what I was going to say. Considering they are very rotation based on that defensive line, it doesn't matter who you are or what position you're in. I don't think Ray is. They need to rely on Ray to be that spot. Baldonado showed he can create havoc, even though he wasn't all over the play sheet, but he was always in the quarterback's face. I think they're going to find that rotation, that sweet spot where it's going to be another sacks by committee type thing, because I don't see a Rider leading the league against sacks unless someone just lights their butt on fire.
What I think the big thing for Saskatchewan is they've got Mike Rose and Micah Johnson in the middle. at that point, and then you throw in a Charbel De Beer, it doesn't matter who you're running on the outside. Those guys are going to eat up double teams all season long, opening things up for your Shane Rays, your Malik Carneys, whoever else, Habakkuk Baldonado. Just got to have an excuse to say his name. When you look at that interior, that by itself makes their defensive ends better. And that's why I don't have any concern with who they've brought in, because I don't think it's going to matter all that much.
Well, next week, we're actually going to have a D lineman on the show. We're going to have Luke Mullender, color analyst for 620 CKRM, is going to join us on the show next week. And I actually want to talk to him about the D line and the rotation. And I also want to ask him why Kitwana Jones was lined up at defensive tackle in Gary Echeverry's scheme back in the day. But I think that's exactly it. It's just the rotation and just how teams want to stay fresh on the D line just to keep those legs going all game long. And I mean, he's a defensive tackle. So to speak on that point, Steve, just having those dominant guys on the inside, and you missed Caleb Sanders, who I think is primed to have a huge year. Maybe it doesn't really matter who you have on the outside. So that could be, sorry, Winston's trying to get out the door here. Sorry, buddy. There you go.
The real star of the show.
That's right. So maybe it doesn't matter who your defensive ends are, but if Ray plays the whole year, and even if he only has 6-7 sacks, I think for the money he's making, that's a pretty good deal. But all in all, I think we got a new day one starter in all open positions that were needed. Cornerback, Tavon Campbell, right? Defensive tackle with losing Lanier, Mike Rose. So that's the trade-off there. There really isn't a hole on the roster right now when I look at the starting lineup. I know a lot of people wanted another receiver. Greg, again, yeah, they didn't really need that big-time receiver because it doesn't really pay off for you in the end when you pay $250,000+. Look at last time the Riders did that, it was Duke Williams. They signed him because they had to, but that didn't work out at all. Can you get out, buddy? There you go.
Gave some nice highlights. That's about it.
Yeah. So overall, I think Jeremy O'Day did a very good job. I won't go A+, but you guys talk about continuity. I went back. I even did homework on this, and continuity was the number one thing for the Riders this offseason. Was they have their guys in place. And Steve, you asked Corey Mace this on episode 300. What is going to be like 2025 like for the Riders? This is what Corey Mace had to say.
Yeah, it's ideal. I think if you look around, the league, and you see the teams who have been in the upper half in the standings. It's just that, right? It's continuity. Just because you don't have to always reset and reteach culture, for example, or it goes a long way. For players being in the same system, knowing the same coaches, knowing what's expected. You don't have to start training camp of learning everything from scratch. So it is important, I think, continuity, absolutely.
So there it is. It's continuity. Having these guys ready to go. They know what the expectations are. They know how they're going to approach training camp this year. So it's not like they're going to waste no time in training camp, meeting each other, saying hi, saying, hey, this is how we're going to have the team. No, everybody knows what the team is going to look like. There's just, a handful of new players in on the team, but a lot of them are vets. They're going to step right in and know exactly. And how many of them have a relationship already with Corey Mace? You look at Tommy Neild with the Argos, was there when Corey Mace was there. Jake Mayer and Tommy Stevens, obviously with Mark Mueller, Sean McEwen as well too. So when it comes to continuity, which is the big thing that they were focusing on this offseason, they knocked it out of the park. So I kind of want to say A+ now. I think I've talked myself into it, but I'm not going to go that far. I already said just an A. So an A for Jeremy O'Day this offseason. And I think it's just, and when you start looking at the contracts, and this is where we're going to go next. Justin Dunk of 3 Down Nation posted an article about what the Riders paid for their free agent signings.
And really nice of them to get this out ahead of our show instead of on Wednesday like the Riders like to.
JD knows what he's doing. Except for tagging us in that Regina Rams thing. I have no idea why he tagged us in that. But anyway.
What a
notifications.
Yeah. That was there were some conversations happening based off that.
There was.
So he linked this all back to, and this includes Trevor Harris. So Trevor Harris has a total of $453,000 this year if all incentives are hit. That includes a $160,000 signing bonus, which was included on the 2024 cap. So his 2025 hit is $300,000. But his total salary is the 5th highest paid starter in the league. And if you ask me, who are the top starters in this league? Well, you look at last year. Bo Levi Mitchell was number 1 quarterback. Who was number 2? It was Trevor Harris. And you're paying him number 5 money? That, to me, that's a bargain.
And you're paying him number 5 money with a third of his salary, not even counting. So what's that? What would $300,000 put him? That would put him at the bottom of the starters for sure. That is a killer contract.
And then you have the other quarterbacks, Jake Mayer, $165,000. Can get more with play time and bonuses. For an experienced backup, that's not bad at all. So you take Harris's $160,000 signing bonus hit. Well, there's Jake Mayer's salary, right? So that's really not a lot for your top 2 quarterbacks when you're only paying $450K, whatever it is, about that number for your top 2 quarterbacks. That's looking pretty good to me. So
you look at what the Bombers paid last year for Claros and Stravy. That's a bargain what we're paying this year.
$700,000 or something like that. Pretty close to that anyway.
Pretty close to that, yeah. It was over 6 anyway.
And we're sitting under 6 for all 3 of our main QBs.
Yeah. And Tommy Stevens now maybe 93,000, and he can get more in play time and bonuses, which he's probably not going to hit.
That all-star bonus, is got to be the funniest thing in the world. I don't get me wrong, Tommy Stevens, I believe in you. You can throw too, but if we get to you as our starting quarterback and you make the all-star team, like you're hitting Rocky Butler era, bud. You are going to be a living legend in this market.
Absolutely.
Could you imagine his agent sitting there going, "Okay, we are not signing this deal unless you throw in a $6,000 all-star bonus." That was the deal breaker. That was it. That was what set it over the top.
Sure.
If I'm okay, you sure you don't want $1 million for an all-star bonus? I will gladly write you $1 million.
Right. He does get $200 per touchdown, so I can assure you he'll probably make a decent amount of money just based off that. Now, maybe 93K is more than you'd probably want to pay your third stringer. You'd probably want to pay that guy an entry level. No?
Not the way our short yardage has been for the last half decade.
Exactly. With what the Riders' needs were, you got to pay for it. So honestly, when you look at the rest of some of the signing, like the contracts, Sean McEwen, for example, $143,000 seems like a pretty big bargain to me. That's what, 30,000 less than
Godber
was getting. So there you can balance off your Tommy Stevens money with that. So,
and not to mention you're getting the guy that snapped him the ball on every one of those short yardage touchdowns last year. That's a bonus right there. Continuity.
So McEwen there with 143. Philippe Gagnon, 92,000 plus. He can get up to $14,000 more in playtime and all-star award bonuses. Even if he hits those, I still think for a starting Canadian offensive lineman, regardless of how long he's been in the league, anyone who's on more than just a rookie contract, $110,000? Less than that? That's a steal. And this is a guy who knows what he's doing. He's a vet. He's very, very good. If you don't hear his name, if you haven't heard his name for a long time, there's a reason why. The guy just doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
Like the Alouettes were the highest graded line last year. So he comes from a very good system. So I'm pretty sure that Harrison will be able to plug him in and it'll be not a big deal. Don't get me wrong. I feel bad for the young guys like your Fries, where
Yeah.
this year looked like it was time for him to officially step in full time. But bringing in a vet like Gagnon at that price tag, you can't say no to that.
The fact that you got Gagnon for $300 more than Tommy Neild as a special teams and far down the depth chart receiver should tell you everything you didn't need to know about the offseason Jeremy O'Day had. That's a steal. $92,000, or was it $93,000 for any starter on the offensive line? And you're laughing.
And I was laughing at that Tommy Neild, $91,700 plus, $11,000 in playtime and all-star bonuses, $100 for each special teams tackle as well too. So potential to get a grand or two just off that. But Tommy Neild's a guy who allows us to be able to start 3 Canadian receivers if they wanted to go that route with Sam Emilus, KSB, and Del Duncan Busby. But at the very least, he's a depth guy with Mitch Picton. And so there's 5 guys on the roster right there. And if he's going to play specials, then I guess that's a bonus too.
And then you also got Mims in camp this year now that his time with the Rams is done. So it's going to be those backup Canadian spots are going to be a battle on the receiving core. That's for sure.
I can absolutely see a guy like Mitch Picton, even though he was re-signed, I can see him being on the bubble to make the roster. And maybe they keep, Tommy Neild's the backup behind everybody. Or if they go three American receivers, you have KSB and Emilus starting, you have Del Duncan Busby behind them and Tommy Neild. So if something happens in game to a Canadian starter on defense, maybe you can shift the ratio and start 3 Canadian receivers then. So there's a lot of flexibility based off that. And that's almost invaluable. We saw that last year with Adam Auclair being able to step in and start. So,
and that's why I think O'Day even had why O'Day's offseason was so great is we have so much flexibility with that ratio and so much Canadian depth. It's amazing. Like even on the offensive line, which is always was patchwork with Canadians, we got him on the linebacking core, we got him in the defensive backs, we got the receivers. Like there's a Canadian basically in every position that could step in, even at running back with Thomas Petron-Udon.
And I know last year I said that it felt like it was 2007 last year. The first year head coach, everything was going well, had a home playoff game, ultimately fell short. But now the way that they're approaching this offseason reminds me of the 2012 to 2013 offseason. They really look like they're going all in. And I thought that with the McEwen signing, and the Gagnon signing on the offensive line. Would I like to see a guy like Zach Fry start? Yes. I thought he did pretty well, and I think another year of starting would be obviously beneficial to him, and he'll get better. But while you can sign these 2 guys, maybe it's only for a year, but we're going all in. This is the year we're your quarterback, if he's going to play at a high level like he did last year, but he's up there in age, well, you got to go in all in for him, right? So I really think that's the approach this year for this team.
The only thing they're missing is the G. Simon signing.
I was going to say,
you need to steal that guy.
I love the difference between the all in is G. Simon and Philippe Gagnon.
Yeah,
It seems so much different.
And if Philippe Gagnon gets 2 touchdowns in the Grey Cup, all power to him.
what'd they trade for G. Simon?
Oh God,
receiver Harper? No, it wasn't Harper.
I'll look it up.
And just going back to the contracts, we did talk about Shane Ray, 125, Tavon Campbell, 153. Mike Rose almost seemed like a bargain at 175, plus just a $5,000 bonus for All-Star and awards. So Mike Rose is still a dominant defensive tackle. And you were able to essentially trade him for Anthony Lanier on the line and save yourself a lot of money, almost 6 figures, just by doing that. So all in all, when I look at who they brought in and what they paid for them, what Jeremy O'Day did with those contracts was a work of wonder. Like, it was just how he got these guys to sign at what seemed like big time bargains just seems beyond me.
It was a 4th round Harper and a 3rd round pick.
Third round.
And the reason why it took me so long is because I was looking up who the 3rd round pick was. Anyone want to guess what Canadian CFL superstar they drafted at that point? KeeSean.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer KeeSean.
Just for that touchdown in the Labor Day Classic, I think, or was it? Yeah, he had the one in the Labor Day Classic too. Just that alone was worth the trade. Just that one, let alone the Grey Cup touchdowns for G-Roy.
Yeah. Did he even play? Did KeeSean even play? Oh, he did. He played. He had a 3-year career with 2 with the BC Lions and 1 with the Edmonton Eskimos. He was a linebacker and long snapper.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
The more you know.
That was a very short trade tree.
This is going to segue nicely. So that's the opening kickoff presented by Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty. Debuting in a couple weeks, we're going to have a brand new segment here on the show.
And I get to embarrass these two.
Yeah. Remember Stump the Schwab back in the day?
I do. See, I bring up Joe Schmo Show, and you guys look at me like I have 3 heads, and you bring up Stump the Schwab.
Yeah, because I actually
watched. Steve is still lost.
Apparently, I didn't watch enough television in my younger years.
It was like Jeopardy, but for sports, basically, was what it was. And it was one guy that had to answer it, pretty much. Or he was up against one other person.
He was up against, and he was just destroying. It was kind of like the sports version of The Beast, where you had like one trivia master against a team, essentially, and he just destroyed people.
But anyway, so how it's going to work is it's kind of like once a rider, always a rider. We always make fun of that. But this is going to be like an ode to Rough Riders of, I don't know.
Of all, the way I describe it. The way I described it, it's going to be the who's who and the who's that of Rider Nation. There's going to be some stars. There's going to be some obvious ones that I hope you guys get, and if you don't, it's going to be embarrassing for you. And then there's going to be the guys that you go, oh yeah, I think I remember him playing for the Riders. And
so you're going to give us some hints. We're going to try and guess who it is. Now, we'll work out the final kinks in this and all, but I think maybe we leave it for the week. See how many people can guess the player, and we'll bring back the answer. Unless it's something obvious and we get right off the bat, then you're like, yeah, okay, here's your gold star, guys.
All I know is if people are listening, Gove and Rob Vanstone will guess every single player we name.
Those two will name absolutely everybody for sure. So that's who we're chasing, really, is Gove, and we're playing for third place.
Yeah. And distant third.
And Keith Stoston will make it at some point. I don't know when, but not early.
I can't wait for the Dennis Guile episode. I'm just saying that right there. And my guess for
your favorite player.
My first guess as to who's going to be the first player you get is JT O'Sullivan. I don't care. You can say it's a running back. I'm going to say JT O'Sullivan.
He's on the list.
Of course he is.
I've been putting together a list of guys I want on there, and JT O'Sullivan is definitely on the list.
Threw a touchdown pass in preseason to a Canadian, I think. Don't remember who, but it was at Taylor Field. I remember that.
He was definitely a Rough Rider of all time.
My favorite thing about JT O'Sullivan is he wore the 0 jersey, just so it was a giant O.
Yep. So we're going to debut that in a couple weeks, and we're going to have some fun with that. So to get to the, once a rider, always a rider. Oh, yeah, remember that guy? We're going to do that. Maybe we should call it Remember That Guy.
Yeah, that works too. Hey, remember the thing? Remember that guy? Yeah, that guy.
Remember that guy? That guy played here. So we'll do that in a couple weeks. We'll let Greg get his lists, and you got to do some homework on that to get some interesting.
I'm going to
tidbits about the player.
try some media stuff with it. Hopefully,
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Well, I look forward to it. All right, well, let's jump to our Churchill Brewing Company odds and end zones. So now that free agency pretty much has a bow wrap on it, what do the Riders still need?
Wins. As many
Can
of
they
them
get
as
that
possible.
in the
patient
offseason?
fans.
We've been waiting 100+ years for that. It ain't happening anytime soon.
Right now, they just need to get on the field and get their schemes together because, like we basically said, they've got a very good team. In fact, if you look at the reporting from Dunk and everyone else out there, other teams are already murmuring that the Riders are the best team on paper right now. And yes, we always make fun of the teams that are the best on paper, but they actually have guys. These are not just guys playing off their name. These are still young guys with talent, not the 2024 Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
I love those thickly veiled shots because they're not
They're
thinly.
not
no,
veiled at all.
No,
There's no
they're
veil.
veiled.
They
I
are
love those-
just shots.
I love those.
They are
shots.
just they are just freewheeling kicks to the groin to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Oh, I hope they start 0-5 again. Man, that would be great.
That is 3-time defending silver medalist Winnipeg Blue
Vice
Bombers
champions.
to you.
Vice champions. We in this house we follow the European rules. Vice champion.
Remember when who was it? The Nashville Predators put up a present or first
present.
round exit championship banner or something like that. Whatever it was.
What was it?
It was their division.
Stanley Cup finalist.
No, they did something for like the first couple rounds.
Oh, I don't remember.
It was weird.
I thought it was that they got out of their division.
Maybe it was conference finalists. Greg's gonna look it up.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah. Anyway, Winnipeg can flag or can fly that flag all year long. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, I would love to see my team in 5 straight Grey Cups. Of course, I would. Everybody would. I'd also like to see him win more than the first 2, and that's it.
Central Division champions.
Oh,
Yep.
Okay. There you go.
That's an actual thing.
So I said they got out of their division.
Yep.
Now, one thing we did actually over the last week, and it was late last week, what we did, we gave our top 5 breakout candidates. Well, Steve didn't because you didn't do your homework. I asked nicely, Steve.
You did. In fairness, my entire family was battling the plague for the majority of a week and a half.
So you didn't have to go to work. You had plenty of time to do this.
That's true, I did. I just didn't want to.
So Greg and I gave our top 5 breakout candidates for 2025. Steve, I'm sure that yours will be fairly similar in the sense that, I mean, we all kind of know who's really going to break out or expecting to break out. I'll have mine in front of me here. I put AJ Allen on my list at number 5. Guy's a beast on special teams, but I think now with Adam Auclair moving on, there's a spot for him to get more defensive reps. And every time he plays on defense, he plays very well. So I expect a lot more reps this year for AJ Allen. So I put him on the list. I put Habakkuk Baldonado. Talked about him earlier, just obviously with that defensive rotation. Guy's not there anymore just because he's the token global player. This guy can play. So he's going to be part of that rotation. And on the D-line, I just think he's going to get plenty of opportunities. Del Duncan Busby. Greg, you had him on your list as well, too.
DB. I can't wait for him.
Only had didn't even have I don't even have his full stats in front of me. But the one game that he did start had 7 catches for 92 yards. That was kind of his breakout party. I'm not expecting 1,000 yards from him by any means, but think of Rob Bagg, 600 yards, 650 yards, couple touchdowns. I think that's realistic when this guy might not even be a starter. I think that's how deep the receiving room is right now. But this guy has the potential to get on the field a lot and produce when he's out there. I also had Caleb Sanders on my list at number 2, and Dante Myers was my number 1 receiver. When you prorate his numbers, he dressed in 5 games, really only played in 4 games. In those 4 games, he had 101, 101, 61, and 86 yards. Over a prorated 18-game schedule, that's 1,570 yards. This guy is ready to just absolutely go off this year. Just has to stay healthy, because I think this guy can be a big-time star for the Riders. So that was my number 1. Greg, you disagreed on
I got mine open. So I also had Habakkuk, and we talked about it. I got DDB. Trevon Tate, I think he's going to have a very good year. They need him to have a very good year, especially with Trevor Reed going to the NFL. DDB, like we said, Reichwell Armstead. This one intrigues me. He's either going to push AJ all year, or he's going to be gone after training camp. Because I don't know how you can. He's the type of guy who wants to be the starter, and I don't see him liking second fiddle that well. So I'm very curious on how that's going to go. But yes, my number 1, KeeSean Johnson, because you already think he's the certified number 1 on this team.
I believe he is. Absolutely.
I think he's definitely in the conversation, but I don't think I don't see any other team going, hey, we got a plan for KeeSean Johnson yet. Will they have to? Yes. Are they going to now? No.
Okay, well, I think he's already had his breakout season, and that was last year. And he didn't play the first little bit of the season. So I think his I have him in front of me, 746 yards, 5 touchdowns in 12 games. To me, that's a breakout. It's no Dalton Schoen putting in 1,440 yards and 16 touchdowns in his first season. Like that, to me, that's an anomaly, and we don't see that very often in the CFL. Your first year, maybe it's your second year, you might put up that. And that's kind of where I see KeeSean Johnson is putting up 1,300 yards this year. Would that be a breakout? No, because I expect it out of him now.
And that's fine. And he could very well do it. But look at, and once again, I'm going to be taking a veiled shot at the Bombers. Look at how many years we had to hear about 1,000-yard receiver Nick Dembski until he actually was one. Like, Dembski always had the ability to get there. He just never did. And I think Johnson has more skills than Dembski at a certain spot. But the number 1 receiver as of right now on this team is Sam Amelis, because he hit 1,000 yards last year.
I don't think he's going to be the number 1 target. And so I want to read some stats here for you. I want to get your thoughts. Would you think your first year you get 50 receptions, 785 yards? Is that a breakout in your very first year in the CFL?
In 12 games, absolutely.
No, that's not 12 games. That's 17 games. This is someone else. These are not KeeSean Johnson's stats.
Then no, I don't think that's a breakout season. I think that's the start of something. I don't think it's a breakout by any stretch.
The start of something? That sounds like a breakout to me.
No, I think breakout is when you shine above others and you become that. There's a clear path to number 1. I don't think 700 yards in your first year is a clear path to a number 1 guy.
Okay, well, this was 2018, and this was Shaq Evans. Would you say year 2, 72 receptions, 1,334 yards, and 5 touchdowns is a breakout? Or did you say that guy was already there? Because I would say 2019 Shaq Evans was already there. He was the clear number 1 going into 2019. And I think that was even with Duke Williams. He was the guy. He was the best receiver for the Riders. If KeeSean Johnson comes back this year and puts up 1,334 yards,
then he's your certified number 1. Sure.
He is the alpha.
But he's not that yet.
That's not a breakout. That's just putting yourself
I'm not saying
in the
that.
top
I'm not saying
tier.
breakout.
That's
Steve
putting
is
yourself
saying
in the
breakout.
top tier of CFL receivers.
I'm sorry, didn't you put him on your number 1 list there, Greg?
Shaq Evans broke out in his first year. Shaq Evans broke out in his first year, 785 yards, 746 yards in 12 games. That's a breakout.
He's still not the number. He's not, as of right now. He's got a ton of potential.
Yes,
he's
he
not
is
the number one.
Look at who was getting all the yards in those games, and who was the guy going for touchdown passes at the end of the year. Who's the guy?
We might hit Greek food. We might hit Greek food level here.
Who was the guy that was the number one target on second downs for Trevor Harris at the end of last season? It was KeeSean Johnson. That trust is already there.
I'm going to see how quick Crystal can make me some popcorn. You guys go here.
Hey, I'm not. Hey, like you're acting like I'm saying he's a scrub. I'm not. Right now we're splitting hairs. No, but right now we're splitting hairs. Do I think he can do it? Yes, of course I do. But like I said, there's no team out there right now going, we need to watch out for KeeSean Johnson. I guarantee you, if they look at MLS and KeeSean Johnson right now, they're planning for MLS. Which is good, because that means KeeSean Johnson's going to be open. I don't care. That's
KeeSean Johnson was mossing guys last year.
Oh, moss. Anyone can moss anybody.
Except for Jason?
Yeah. But the fact remains is we're splitting hairs.
The breakout happened.
I got to go with Alex on this one. You have sold me on that. The Shaq Evans comparison made that for me. And the fact that we looked at him as a number one guy after 700 yards in 17 games. And you look at 700 yards in 12 games, that's already 1,000+ yard pace. He's already broken out. And I guarantee you there are defensive coordinators right now looking at our depth chart going, Sam Emilus, KeeSean Johnson, everybody else. They are absolutely going to be keying in on him. And if they don't, well, that's very good news for us.
Well, that's very good for us.
Thank you, Steve. Your check is in the mail.
Perfect. I will not cash it.
Good, because
okay,
it's
the 2019 receivers. Manny Arsenault, Shaq Evans, Justin McInnes, Kyron Moore, Naaman Roosevelt, Kenny Stafford. Oh, Kenny Stafford. Corey Watson.
Is he going to be on your once a rider list?
Oh, well...
all you got to say is frying pan, and we will guess it in an instant.
Oh, Junior Murtile is going to be on that list too.
Oh, you know he is.
Ole!
Yeah.
Oh, the entire 2015 and 2016 riders should be on that list.
You had Manny and Naaman on that roster. I don't know if Shaq was the certified number one.
Oh, Manny, come on. Manny was not. He should have been. He definitely wasn't. He should have been. He wasn't. He was done by then.
He just didn't know him for another couple of years.
Yeah, I was gonna say. My favorite thing about Manny Arsenault is he's got like plaques in and his jerseys of all of the teams he's been on with the logos on it. The rider logo is upside down.
Sounds about right.
That's
I pointed it out to him on Twitter too, and I'm like, it's upside down. You can't tell. I'm like, well, yeah, you can. The wheat's upside down, and the S is upside down. Pretty obvious.
Okay, well, Steve has my back on this one. I want to know what everybody else thinks. Has KeeSean Johnson already had that breakout season? So who's more right in our number one candidate for breakout? Me or Greg? I had Dante Myers. Greg has KeeSean Johnson.
For the record, Dante Myers would be at the number one on my spot as well. And he was that guy at the end of last season. Me and the guy sitting behind me at games, we were calling his plays before they were happening. And every time he did anything of note, it was an instant high five. He's on the Dante Myers bandwagon as well.
Myers is going to be good.
I'll add a 0 to that check, Steve.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right, one final thing before we go. So hit us up on social media. Let us know which one of us you like better. Ultimately, that's probably what it comes down to.
Or tell us or give us a review on Apple Podcasts and tell us who's better.
Yeah, we haven't got one of those in a while.
With 5 stars.
Yes. One other thing I want to mention is coming up soon, next Saturday, March 8th, at the Serb Club in Regina. It's just on Avonhurst, just kind of at the back of the Avonhurst Mall there. CFL Fans Fight Cancer. It's a little kickoff event. It's actually happening that night in, I think it's 8 CFL cities are hosting a get-together at some point to start raising money for CFL Fans Fight Cancer, which is going to hospital in Winnipeg this year. And so I know I'll be there because that's literally just a nice stumble home. So that's pretty convenient for me. 6 o'clock. I've never actually been to the Serb Club before. I've heard very good things about them. So I'm looking forward to going, but also just chatting Rider football, chatting CFL football with some Rider fans. So if you need something to do next Saturday night, CFL Fans Fight Cancer kickoff event. We're not hosting it. It's by Glenn Chernick. He's kind of heading up the Regina chapter of CFL Fans Fight Cancer this year. If you have him on social, let him know that you're going to go. He does want to try and get numbers in by mid next week, I think. So, or let us know if you plan on showing up. We can add you on the list and just have you as a number there as well too. So I'm looking forward to this because obviously talking football, but also raising money to beat cancer. That doesn't get any better than that. So there we go. And I know there'll be more events throughout the year too. So obviously, I mean, Saturday night is a big party night for everybody, not for me because I'm old. But there'll be more throughout the year, and we'll let you know about things like that come up. So if you can do something and come on out and raise a little bit of money, then let's do that. So, but I think that's all we got for this week. Unless, Greg, you want to have another fight about Greek food, because I will fight you on that. Again.
I just don't have. I'm going to win that fight, but
who was pro Greek food?
Me,
Alex.
Yeah. See, in the time since that fight has happened, yet again, I'm going to side with Alex. I have learned that Greek food is fantastic, and I'm sorry that
I like some things.
Years...
I like some things. I like souvlaki, but yeah, no, the rest it can go.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell Zach Caleros, and him and his grandmother are going to be very disappointed in you.
That's okay. I wasn't disappointed by his Grey Cup performance. I was actually quite enjoyed that. So.
This is West's final performance. That disappointed us. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. I'm hungry now. It's like almost 11 o'clock at night. Piffles podcast brought to you by our great friends at Dairy Queen on Elphinstone Street and Sass Drive. Thanks for listening in this week. Special thanks, of course, go to Kathy Festian of Royal LePage Regina Realty and Churchill Brewing Company for their support making things happen. And we will actually get Steve, Banjo Bowl bus trip is a go.
It's a
we'll
go.
Have some details on that possibly next week.
March 1st.
March 1st. Okay. So
yep, next show.
We will be posting about it on social media if you're looking to go to the Banjo Bowl and not just do a 1-day trip, but a 2-day trip.
2-day trip. We're doing it big this year. Bigger and better.
We're going to make it happen. So looking forward to that. We'll have some details next week on that. And hopefully you can join us in Winnipeg for the Riders breaking their streak of losing, because geez, I'm sick of going to these games and them getting at least this game last year was close. So that was enjoyable at least.
It was a start. It was trending upwards. That's
right. Thanks for watching on SaskTel Max TV on demand, watching on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you very much. This is Ghost Behind Your Mind by Tyler Gilbert.
The